over the weekend, Joe Rogan found himself in yet another controversy after a video compilation of the podcast host using the N-word over the years blew up on social media. India Ari, if you remember her, pulled her music from Spotify, and she shared a video on Saturday of Rogan repeatedly using the N-word on his podcast and making a joke about the movie Planet of the Apes while he was in a black neighborhood. Let's take a watch.
Like, you know, the
thing.
Yeah.
Saying the word
You've already said
is just like saying she's calling you a it's like this boy that he's a and starts calling them word. There should be a word like, especially like the word that's our about. He said guy and then our starts saying to use the word out the word the word say couldn't say.
So on Saturday, Rogan apologized for his repeated past use of racial slurs, saying, quote, "There's been a lot of shit from the old episodes of the podcast that I wish I hadn't said or had said differently." And he posted this in a video on Instagram, which you can watch. Now, Spotify, of course, has come out. The CEO, Daniel Ek, apologized to staff for continuing to host Rogan and said he will continue to contract with him while investing $100 million in artists from marginalized groups, but says he does not believe that cutting ties with a popular personality is the answer. However, Spotify did end up removing many episodes of Joe Rogan. It's unclear whether or not Spotify did it or if Rogan did it, but there are missing episodes. So some of the reports saying it's over 70, some are saying it's over 100. But a lot of episodes are missing. And like I said, it's unclear who actually did it. Now, in the wake of Rogan's condemnation, right, all of these leftists coming out saying, oh my gosh, we knew Rogan was a racist, right-wing misinformation. And that is really why they're going after him. They're going after him because they don't like the conversations he has on his podcast with people who are condemned by the left. But of course, in the wake of all of this condemnation, Twitter did its thing and found a trove of these very same people doing what Rogan did, or even worse. Here's a video of TYT's Anna Kasparian and Cenk Uygur talking about using the same language. Here it is.
I apologize. I know these are like difficult words to hear, but words like and you are why I lost my job. He only run.
Okay, so
yeah, so I had to do a lot of bleeping on that one because they've said it quite a bit. Also, an old segment of Howard Stern in blackface resurfaced. Now, remember, Howard Stern is like the biggest pro-mandate. He's going after Joe Rogan all the time, trying to make himself relevant again. I mean, does anybody even still listen to Howard Stern? I don't know, but here's an old segment of Stern in blackface.
Oh, hush up. I hate blackface. I just can't get this shit off. Besides, Whoopi done wrote everything I'm going to say here tonight, so it's all right. Ain't that right, you smell?
I didn't write that.
Well, you is a smelling.
Okay. And of course, the president of the United States is not exempt. After all, Kamala Harris did come after him at one point during the debates when she was running against him, basically saying he was a racist. And I don't know, was she wrong? Here's a clip.
We already have a mayor. We don't need any more big shots.
Okay. So, first of all, I think the big question is whether or not Joe Rogan should have apologized. So there's been a lot of criticism coming from people who defend Joe Rogan, who like Joe Rogan, and they say you cannot, under any circumstances, apologize to the mob because that's not what they want. And I think they're right to some degree. I don't blame Joe Rogan for apologizing. Some people are mad at him for even apologizing. They're mad at him for removing these episodes, or at least allowing Spotify to remove the episodes. And, you know, they don't want him to cave at all. I understand why Joe Rogan would apologize for something like this. You know, it is, even though when you listen to, you know, we're talking about old clips, he didn't mean them in the way that now today, if you were to say something similar, it would be meant. You know, the meanings of words and the intent behind words change through time. We know this. But, you know, so I understand his desire and his need to apologize for his past behavior. I get that. I also understand the desire to remove some of these old episodes that maybe would be considered offensive and could be construed as racist, I suppose. I understand that. But at the same time, it is true that this is not what the mob wants. They are not looking for Joe Rogan to apologize and remove these episodes. They're looking to get rid of Joe Rogan. So giving them a little right, is you're sort of saying, okay, maybe you're right about me. And that is, I think, the fundamental problem a lot of people are having with Joe Rogan sort of capitulating to this mob is you're giving them that inch and they're going to try to take a mile. They're not looking to just get an apology out of you or for you to correct your wrongs. They're not doing this in good faith. They're doing this to get rid of you. And they don't want to get rid of you really because of all of these things you've once said. Otherwise, they would be getting rid of Joe Biden, right? They wouldn't have voted for him. They wouldn't be supporting him. They would be going after TYT that claims that they're, fighting racism and white supremacists all the time here in America. They blame white people for everything it seems like when I'm oftentimes on TYT, I should say. And so so this isn't about, these are the people that they just want Joe Rogan to be gone because they don't like that he is platforming controversial people that are going against the establishment narrative. That's exactly what it is. So, should Joe Rogan have apologized? I don't blame him for it. I understand his desire to do it. I'm not like some people who are very angry that Joe Rogan has even apologized. I get it. I don't think he needed to do it. I don't think that we need to continue to do this to ourselves and to one another, where we go back into one another's past and we dig up old jokes that were once okay at the time, or old phrases that were once okay at the time. Every single last one of us has used an offensive phrase at one point in our lives. I mean, I grew up in Idaho. There were a lot of phrases that we used when I was growing up as a kid that were totally acceptable at the time. And now, looking back, it's like shocking, totally abhorrent. But none of us were racist using those terms. We use them without really understanding the full meaning of them. They were just, jokes or phrases, and people didn't really associate what it actually meant. So constantly going back into one another's past and digging this stuff up and then trying to cancel each other over it I've never agreed with that. I've always thought that was insane. I've always thought, if somebody did something and it was appropriate at the time, like blackface, right? There was a period of time when you could show up with blackface to a Halloween party if you were dressed as a character from a TV show or a movie. That was acceptable at the time. It is not acceptable today. If you did it today, then there would be a reason for the mob to come after you, I suppose, because you should know at this point. But if you did it 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and it's something that was okay at the time, this whole mob mentality of going after one another for past mistakes is absurd. And we shouldn't be caving to it, and we shouldn't allow others to attempt to, cancel people because of it. So that being said, is Joe Rogan going to be canceled? I think that's the big thing on everybody's mind is this is just the beginning. We started with Neil Young saying, I'm pulling my music off the platform unless you get rid of Joe Rogan. That didn't work. And so now we're seeing this full court press against him. And really, it happened before Neil Young. It was the administration. It was CNN. It was we all saw CNN going after Joe Rogan for horse paste medicine, horse dewormer. And so they don't like that non-establishment, non-mainstream voices who are being platformed on Joe Rogan's show. And on top of it, they're extremely popular episodes. That is their beef. What this is about is going against the establishment narrative. This isn't about racism or bad jokes. This isn't even about misinformation. We know a lot of the stuff that's being said is not misinformation. It's just different information or a different point of view or a different opinion. That's what it is. And they're classifying it as misinformation. Although we've seen the CDC, the FDA, CNN, MSNBC, all of the mainstream news outlets spew quite a bit of misinformation during this pandemic and prior to this pandemic. We're all waking up and opening up our eyes to it, to all of the varieties of sectors where they lie to us on a regular basis and lead us down a path saying weapons of mass destruction, this is what we have to do. So we're seeing it. People are opening up their eyes to it. But this is not about racism. This is not about an apology. This is about silencing a powerful voice that is not in line with the mainstream establishment. That is what this is about. And we have to work together to say, we're not going to allow that to happen. I don't care if I didn't agree or I do agree. It doesn't matter. The principle of this is people want to hear this. And you as the government, you as big tech, you as India Ari, who no one listens to anymore, you don't get the power to silence someone the rest of us want to hear. Ideas the rest of us want to hear. Now, there's also this meme going along, or this graph or chart being shared on social media showing all of the times Joe Rogan platformed a right-winger versus a left-winger, and it's disproportionately on the right. Even though when you look at the list, I could point out about 10 names on the right, that are categories under right who are actually under the left. They've just been censored or canceled by the left. Now, listen, to me, the answer is really obvious why Joe Rogan would have way more right-wingers on his show than left-wingers. For one, left-wingers are constantly saying, how dare you legitimize so-and-so by going on their show. They don't like it when people from the left go onto shows like Tucker Carlson, Fox News. They didn't like Bernie Sanders going on Joe Rogan. They didn't like Bernie Sanders going and doing a Fox News town hall. This is the group of people that cancel and censor. They are not open-minded. So they don't want to go and be platformed on Joe Rogan's show or to have or to legitimize Joe Rogan. So it's harder to get left-wing guests. I know this because when I talk to Tim Pool's people, they say the same thing. They have a difficult time booking left-wing guests. They ask, they invite, they don't want to come on because they don't want to legitimize. So you can't criticize Joe Rogan for having a bunch of right-wing guests disproportionately when the left won't even talk to him. And the other point about this is the left is not as open-minded. The left has become the closed-minded group of people. So they won't have open and honest discussion with Joe Rogan about controversial topics or topics that aren't mainstream. They don't want to go onto a show and have those difficult or interesting conversations. They want to stick to their echo chamber. So that criticism is completely unfair to say, well, Joe Rogan, he only has right-wingers on his show. We look at disproportionately right-wing. Well, there's a reason for that, and it's not his fault. It's actually the fault of the left and their closed-mindedness and their bigotry against people on the right. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks for watching the show. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Also, be sure to join my Locals community. The link is down below. That is where you're going to get live streams and other content that I don't post on these other platforms. So join me on Locals. Love to see you there. Thank you guys so much for watching.